beautiful, and welcome back to my channel. Woo! This one, this video, I know that I'm gonna get quite spicy with.
Add a bit of spice.
But that's okay because I'll try and keep myself cool, calm, and collected. But recently, I've just been really enjoying sitting down, talking to you guys, putting on some makeup, just either reacting to Glee or just chatting about what's been on my mind. So I thought let's keep that going, especially because something has kind of broken the internet recently, being this palette. She looks cute, don't get me wrong. She looks really, really cute until you dive into it a bit deeper and then you realize how much of an absolute mess she is. So recently, an indie makeup brand called Amy Lee Cosmetics has collaborated with another makeup person, another influencer called Amanda Rowson. I hope that I said that correctly. If not, a lot of apologies, because considering I have a last name that's quite intense to pronounce, Rifenstine, like have fun with that one. I'm terrible with pronouncing other people's last names, but I've been trying to get a bit better with that. So they both collaborated when it came to making this palette. On the outside, she looks super cute, called Survivor, got the Chairty ribbon on her and everything, and it's just kind of like, okay, cool, what's this baby cake's got for us? Disclaimer, because this video is gonna need a disclaimer. If you are someone who is being affected by things like cancer, abuse, mental health, other various diseases and health conditions, please don't watch this video because you may find it very distressing, and the last thing I want you to do is to jeopardize your mental health, your mental well-being to watch this. So if you are one of those people, it was lovely having you here for a brief second, but please watch a different video because I don't want you getting hurt by any of this. And then they showed the inside of the palette and everyone was like, ooh! Ooh, that's a choice. So this beautiful palette features such incredible groundbreaking names as Parkinson's, diabetes, endometriosis, cervical cancer, breast cancer, lymphoma, heart disease, depression, epilepsy, lung cancer, suicide, childhood cancer, PTSD, and child abuse. So what I can tell from the owner of Amy Lee Cosmetics and the person that they collaborated with, Amanda, the intention of the palette was to raise awareness for various diseases and conditions and get a conversation rolling because of them. The issue that they are now facing is that people are quite upset with how insensitive and tone deaf the names of the shades have come across. The issue that I have with the palette is not the intention, because the intention is essentially we want to start a conversation so that one, people are aware of these conditions and aware of the hardships that come with them, but also it helps remove a stigma that so many people face when it does come to these conditions. So if someone is facing hardships when it comes to these, it means that they are more likely to come forward and feel okay to come forward because there is a welcoming to them now, because this negative stigma that has possibly been on those conditions or diseases before is no longer there. Also, it just means that people may be more understanding because they know that these conditions now exist. In my personal opinion, there is a way to start a conversation and there is a way not to start a conversation, and unfortunately this is a way to not start a conversation, because all I can find from my research is that essentially they've been like, hey, here's a palette with these names on it, conversation done. That's it. Because on all the social medias, Facebook, Instagram, of Amy or of Amanda, there just isn't anything. There just isn't anything. There's nothing discussing what any of these things are. There is nothing discussing the hardships of what any of these things are. So essentially all they've done is name a palette these awful shade names and just been like, yep, conversation over, mic drop. And it's like, okay, where's the substance? But not only has Amanda and Amy failed to start a conversation that they were hoping to, which granted is sad that you had hopes to do something and it just didn't work out that way. Like that is genuinely sad. You have high hopes and you want something to work out a specific way and it just doesn't. My heart goes out to them in some sort of way, because I think that there was just a blissful naivety when it came to this, when it came to the creation of the palette, but also there was some issues with some self-reflection that I'll get to later. Also, as someone who makes makeup content, when it comes to a legitimate tutorial of mine, this isn't a legitimate tutorial. This one is just me sitting down, having a cute little chat with all of you and having some fun. Well, I don't know how much of this video is going to be fun, but like just sitting down, having a chat, and all that kind of stuff. But the issue with this palette and the shade names is you can literally not do a legitimate tutorial with this palette. And there are a lot of comments, just go on a Twitter, there were a lot of comments along the lines of this. But what am I supposed to do as a makeup person? What is anyone supposed to do as a makeup person with this palette? Are you just gonna be sitting there being like, wow, the shimmer of PTSD really brings out my eyes? You know what, I'm just gonna put child abuse in my crease for a pop of color. Like what? Ooh, lung cancer would be a really great highlight. I'm sorry. Who approved that? It's stupid. And I think what probably kickstarted this downfall and got them to this point to make this palette, produce this palette, try and sell this palette, market this palette, I think the downfall genuinely, and this is just in my personal opinion, I think the downfall genuinely started at, of course, the very beginning. But when they were discussing making this palette and being like, we want to make one for survivors, they've made it all about what they survived. They've made it all about the labels of the things that have been survived, whether it's different kinds of cancers, whether it's different kinds of mental illnesses, whether it's other kinds of medical conditions. They've made the strength of the situation the disease or the condition itself, not the hard work that someone has to put in to live through this. What I'm saying is what you survived isn't what gives you strength, it's how you survived. And there is no strength or conversation of strength when it comes to this palette, because all it's doing is highlighting the hardships. And it's like, yes, it's hard, but so many people have done so many things to try and overcome their stuff, and it's those stories are the ones that are so uplifting and so powerful, because a lot of the shade names in this palette, for lack of a better phrasing, are a life sentence. They are a condition or a disease that you are typically with forever, or you have at least some sort of memory of it forever. And being able to go throughout your day, every single day, whether it's the bad days and the days where you think, you know what, I think I have to take this one a little bit lighter for myself, that's still strength. Whether it's the days where it's one of your bad days and you're like, nope, I've got to push myself through this one, that's still a strength. Whether it's one of your good days and you can sit there and be like, oh, thank God I can breathe for a bit, that's still strength. Being able to maintain every single freaking day one of these conditions, that's what gives you strength. Not the condition itself, it's how you overcome it and how you persevere through it. That's what gives you strength. So why not name the shades resilience, determination, strength? Why not name it any of those things? The hard work that you legitimately put in to keep going. And it genuinely makes me sad that this is the conversation that they wanted to have. This is the conversation that they wanted to push, because at the end of the day, there is a lot of hard work and effort and other stories that have gone completely unnoticed because of this and because of the backlash. And genuinely, if you are one of these people who has gone through any of these conditions, or even the conditions that weren't a shade name in this palette, if you have gone through any of these conditions and you are going through day by day and you are working your ass off, I just want you to know that I am so proud of you. I am so proud of you, because I know that a lot of people and their hard work when it comes to any of these things goes so unnoticed. I notice them, I see them, I see you. I'm so proud of you. The most annoying part is genuinely when I was looking up all of this, the shade names, like, they bothered me, because that's a whole entire other can of stupid. It wasn't the shade names that genuinely like it got me mad. It got me so freaking pissed. I'm a very emotional person, don't get me wrong, but it's not very often where I get genuinely angry at people I haven't even met. Somehow this situation broke that one for me. So what really got me angry was just how the situation was handled in the aftermath of it all. As I said in the beginning of the video, the makeup palette was a collaboration between makeup company Amy Lee Cosmetics and influencer Amanda Browson. Once again, hope I'm saying that name correctly. And when I first caught air of this situation, I went researching. I went to their Instagrams to see what was going on. There is now nothing. I went to their Facebooks to see what was going on. There is now nothing. I can't see anything on Twitter. I don't even know if they have Twitter anymore. If they do, dope. I just couldn't find it. I was looking for hours, but either way. So I tried to find anything on them. Nothing. Except for on Amy Lee Cosmetics. On Amy Lee Cosmetics, the palette is still up, but it says sold out. So there's two different sides of the story that I can see so far. And that is that people have said that the palette got taken down, but it's still up and it says sold out. But by the looks of it, no one's really bought it. So I don't know if it's actually sold out or if them putting sold out on their website is them saying we're not doing it anymore. I'm not sure. So I don't know what's happened with the palettes at all, because there's not a clear statement from either party. But Twitter being Twitter, woo, she came through, because there are a few people on Twitter who managed to grab screenshots of stuff before it was all taken down, which means that we got some stuffs to talk about. So one concern that people had was that these diseases and conditions were going to be used essentially as a gimmick to make money, and for none of the money to actually see the people who deserve to see the money. Oh, we're going to call the palette Survivor and name all of these diseases and conditions that people live with for their whole entire life, essentially, but we're not going to give the money to anyone who really has those. We're going to keep the money as a company. That kind of vibe. I hope that I'm getting that point across. People were just concerned that it was being used as a gimmick to make money, but not actually like donate back to the people that were exploiting. So there was a comment, I'm pretty sure on Facebook, where someone asked, hey, is any of the money going to charity? Amy Lee responded to her and said, that's a great question. Right now, a portion of every pallet sold will go directly to Amanda, who suffers from Chiari Malformation. I'm sorry if I said that wrong. That's also another one of the shade names. And recently is unable to work due to major surgery. I'm mixed about this one, because from my research, I can't see any of their like initial launch, their initial like teaser, their initial anything. I can't see how they initially tried to promote the palette. If I could, then I could make a better judgment. I think if the palette was initially just formed and promoted as this is Amanda's story, then yeah. But if it wasn't, like, it's a bit kind of, I don't know how I feel about that solely based off of, I don't know, because I can't find it, because I don't know how it was initially marketed. But also, if it's initially marketed as her story, you could still change the shade names. But then they completely went back on it later. As it stands, as I'm filming right now, it says on the website, proceeds of every pallet ordered will be donated towards two organizations, Parkinson's.org and RareDiseases.org. So one, it says proceeds. So it doesn't specify how much. It could be like $1 per pallet, which is kind of nothing depending on how many pallets get sold. If only 52 pallets get sold, that's $52. So if that makes sense. But it could be like 80% of the profit. We just don't know. It's a lot of like half-assed kind of statements, if that makes sense. Once again, this is just my personal opinion. So I'm not too sure how I feel about that, just because there isn't enough information. This situation went downhill fast and hard, and I don't think either party really knew how to deal with it, and it just feels like they're covering their asses as much as they can. So all of that part of the drama and not being just like direct with where the money of the pallets is going already gets me kind of, she gets me a certain way. She gets me a bit heated, I'm not gonna lie, because when it comes to stuff like this, you're either a charity palette or you're not a charity palette. In my personal opinion, if you're making a charity palette, you have failed if people have to ask you how much of the profits go to charity. If you're not making that clear enough, you've screwed up. So since the backlash, Amy Lee Cosmetics is yet to make a formal statement. If they have, they've taken it down. It's nowhere now. It's absolutely nowhere now. It's gone. She doesn't exist. But Amanda made a statement on what I can gather Facebook, and this lovely Twitter user here managed to grab screenshots. Okay, so that's Amanda's response. So let's break this bad boy down for a hot second. So one of the first things she has in her statement is that it wasn't her intention to hurt anyone. I don't see anything wrong with this sentence. I hope that your intention wasn't to hurt anyone. If your intentions were to hurt someone, then like, you're questionable. Is the nicest way to put it. I genuinely don't believe it was her intention to hurt anyone or to upset anyone with the palette and with the shade names. But the issue is the execution of it. It's yes, you wanted to have a conversation. Yes, you wanted to spread a message. Yes, you wanted to spread awareness for these diseases and conditions and lift up people who live with them. but there's a way to have that conversation, and I'm sorry, this just wasn't it. Because one of the next things she says is that each shade corresponds with each charity ribbon. I can't find any other mention of this, which means that this is possibly the first time that we're hearing this aspect of the palette, which is kind of sad because I think it's a cute idea to have that. I don't think you should name the shades that, but I think it's a cute idea that for a charity palette, you have it inspired by the colors of different charity ribbons. I think that's a great idea. But if this is the first time you're mentioning it, you've screwed up the marketing of it. You've screwed up the marketing of the palette. You've screwed up the whole entire message. If once again, that wasn't clear cut from the beginning, once again, I can't find clear cut evidence if this was the first time that it was mentioned, but if it is, it's not how it should have been done. It should have been one of the first things mentioned, because it's the whole reason for the palette, is to raise awareness. Before I say anything else, I do want to say, hearing that Amanda herself has gone through all of these things personally, it is sad, don't get me wrong. I don't think anyone should have to go through any single one of these things, so to hear that she's gone through all of these things personally is very, very heartbreaking. But in saying that, that doesn't mean that you just kind of get to do what you want with it. I'll make my point, I promise. So one of the other things that she says in her statement that grinded my gears a teeny bit is, I got it all on little dot points over here. Sadly, there's not enough awareness about these conditions and diseases because otherwise people would not get so offended. My dear, people are not offended that you are trying to start a conversation and raise awareness. People are offended by how you are trying to have the conversation and raise awareness. There is a way to have this conversation and there is a way to raise awareness, and this just isn't it. If someone is just starting to go through their journey with any of these things, I don't think the thing that they want to see it getting so much hype about at the moment is someone using those things as a gimmick to sell makeup palettes. And then the last thing that she said, I think it's the last, I hope it's the last. Let me go to my books. No publicity is bad publicity. And because of all the controversy, the palette will sell out. So, as I said before, I can't find any evidence of if the palette actually sold out or if it was the website essentially taking it off the shelves. There's no clear-cut evidence. Maybe it did sell out. I kind of hope it didn't. Maybe it did sell out, maybe it didn't sell out. I don't think we're ever gonna know unless Amy Lee Cosmetics makes a formal statement. Like, are you focused more on the message or are you focused more on the palette selling out? But essentially all that I got from this statement was that people like me who find issue with the palette are small-minded and need to look at the bigger picture. So what I can gather is that the bigger picture is, of course, to start a conversation, raise awareness, and get people the help that they need when it comes to all of these conditions, if not more conditions. Because unfortunately, there are more than just these conditions and diseases out there in the world, and there are people suffering with other ones that haven't been highlighted in these shade names. So my question is then this: if the purpose of this palette is to spread awareness and start a conversation, then where on any of the socials promoting the makeup palette itself is there any mention of these diseases and what they are and how they affect people? Where is the mentions of charities that may be able to help people who are starting to struggle with these diseases or have been struggling for ages? Where is a list of helplines so that if someone needs help now, they have someone to call straight away without hesitation? Just where is there any information from either party that will either help someone who is struggling with these conditions or for people who are trying to support someone who is struggling with these conditions? Where is the information for people to understand, and where is the information for people to get help and get support? If you want to start a conversation, where's the conversation? Because as I said, all I'm seeing is these things exist. Oh, diabetes exists? I didn't know that. One thing I can gather from Amanda's statement is that she's very open, she's very honest with her followers about her struggles with some, if not all of these conditions, which is great because that does spread a message, that does spread awareness, and that does start a conversation. But it starts a conversation about Amanda's story, about Amanda's struggle, about her story. And Amanda is just one person out of possibly millions of people who have experienced one or multiple of these conditions, of these diseases. So if all we're talking about is one person's experience, that's not a clear scope of everything. Also, the way that she has coped with her stuff isn't necessarily how someone else would cope with their stuff. So that means that what would be healthy for her may not be healthy for someone else. What may be toxic for her may not be toxic for someone else. It just depends on how people function and how people cope, because everyone is an individual. No two people are alike, no two experiences are alike. And then calling people like me narrow-minded and telling us to look at the bigger picture also doesn't make sense, because you've painted one picture, which is the Amanda picture. Once again, that's fine. Tell your story. Shout it to the heavens. Shout it to the hills. Please, because that does start a conversation. But there was just no clear definition of that when it came to the promotion of this palette and when it came to the launch of this palette. So I don't understand how a person can get so outraged that people aren't understanding when you haven't communicated properly for people to be able to understand. The issue is that conversations work both ways. There has to be someone willing to listen, but there also has to be someone who is willing to explain. My roommate one time said something to me which absolutely blew my mind. Like, it's so simple, but it makes so much sense. And that was just something as simple as, I can't go off what you mean, I can only go off what you say. We're not in her head. So we don't know what her intentions are. We don't know what she means to say. We don't know any of that. All we can go off is what we are told, because we're not mind readers. So in essence, the lack of self-awareness and the lack of self-reflection in this backlash and in this controversy is just baffling. I'm not saying that it wouldn't be devastating that this is how the launches happen, because it would be. It would be devastating to put in all that effort and be so passionate about advocating for all of these conditions and diseases just for it to be seen as insensitive, when I'm sure that you have done so much great work in the world. But the issue is that this palette was just not the way to do it. And instead of just calling people narrow-minded and telling people that they need to look at the bigger picture, maybe you need to look at the picture that you've painted yourself. So because they have obviously failed with this, I don't want to. It's just not what I want to do. Because I think that these things should be talked about. These things should have a conversation behind them. These things should have something behind them where people can get help if they are struggling with them, or family members can get help so that they can help those that are struggling with it. I don't think I'm making any sense anymore. In the description, I'm going to have everything separated out, so all the diseases and conditions that were named in the palette, I'm going to try and find as many organizations, as many charities, as much information as I can, and put them all in links down below in the description. That way, if you are someone who needs help and you just don't even know where to start, there's at least a starting point for you, because I know my story when it comes to some of those things, and I know it helps me, but I don't know you. I don't know what you're going through. I don't know your story. So there's only so much that I can help, but at least I can give you a path so that you can find something that helps you through this. And then the favor I want to ask of all of you is if you could please comment your country and comment some helplines. That way, if someone is struggling or if someone is in need of help, they don't have to go far to look for support, to look for love, and also to look for help. But straight off the bat, I do know one website that is very, very helpful and has been helpful to me for years, and that is doesthedogdie.com. Sounds weird, but when watching movies and TV shows, I have triggers. There are some things that I either don't want to watch or just genuinely cannot watch when it comes to movies and television shows. So with Does the Dog Die, the best thing about this website is all you have to do is type in the TV show or the movie, and then it comes up with a list of triggers, and then by public opinion, there's either a yes or a no vote, and then sometimes there's comments in it as well, which kind of describes the situation for you. I can't recommend Does the Dog Die enough. I think it's a great website because it means that for people like me, whether you like me or not, you can just go to the website, look it up, see what's going on, and you don't have to jeopardize your well-being to watch a TV show or a movie and just hope that like nothing's gonna happen in it that you don't want to happen. Just to summarize kind of everything that I've talked about in this video, because I do want to make sure that I've gotten my point across, and I've gotten it across in a way where everyone understands my point of view, because at the end of the day, if I'm not communicating it correctly to you, then that's on me, right? So either way, I do genuinely have issues with the names of the palette, not just because they're insensitive and tone deaf, but also I think it highlights the power being the conditions and the diseases, not the power being how you maintain and overcome them. which I think is quite an injustice to those who have gone through that situation. I do completely and genuinely understand the intention of the palette itself, don't get me wrong, but I just think it was executed quite poorly from start to finish, whether it was the creation of the palette itself in the way of naming. I think the shades could be cute, but like just give them different names, hot diggity damn. But even how both parties have dealt with the backlash, because what I gather from Amy is that she's essentially just deleted all traces of it except for on the actual cosmetics website itself, and then it says sold out, but I genuinely can't figure out if it actually sold out or if it was just them saying that it sold out so that they could take it off the shelves, whatever. Couldn't find it, don't know, wish I could tell you, just don't know. Either dealing with it in the way of like, it never happened is not good, but also dealing with it in the way of like, any publicity is good publicity. And it's like, okay, but is this about a conversation and raising awareness, or is this about selling makeup palettes? It's either about a message or it's about selling out. That's it. Those are your lanes. But even how the palette was marketed itself, is it Amanda's story? If it is Amanda's story, great, fine, still would name the shade something different, but even just put a little like piece of paper at the back detailing the story and detailing how her dad went through all this stuff, she's gone through all this stuff, her mom's gone through all this stuff, and actually put her story in the back. That's fine. But I can't tell if it's raising awareness about her story because Amy made that comment saying that the proceeds were going to her, or if it's about raising awareness in general for the diseases and the conditions, because if that's the case, then they should be going to charities, but it's only now after that it seems like it's going to charities. So that also doesn't make sense to me, but also just like put a slip of paper at the back again explaining what each disease is and giving like some sort of information about each disease on the back. I don't understand that point either. Also, when it comes to a charity palette, as I said before, if you don't explicitly state as a company how the money of the palette will be spent to help the charities that you were talking about, then you've screwed up. If people have to ask how the money is being spent from a charity palette, you haven't done it right. If it's a charity palette, let us know what charity. How much of the proceeds are going to what charity and what charity is it going to? Because otherwise it's just a gimmick. It's just a way to make money and exploit people's conditions and diseases to make money. Which, that feels like a cartoon villain kind of thing. So in essence, yes, the palette bothers me. Yes, I don't think they should have been named that. Yes, I think that this is a whole new realm of stupid. I think someone was very passionate and they didn't stop to really think how the backlash was handled later. That really grinded my gears because it shows that there was such a lack of self-awareness and a lack of self-reflection. I won't be buying it. Don't know if you gathered that from this video, but I won't be buying that palette. But either way, that's the video. This is the makeup look. Let me know what you think. I think she's kind of cute. I wanted to go for something that was like super boss, super powerful, because like I feel fight me right now. This feels, I feel invincible right now. But also please let me know down in the comments below what you think of this situation, because I genuinely want to know what your opinion is with this, because I'm still baffled as to how that palette got produced, in all honesty. Also, as I said before, if you're one of those people living with these diseases or conditions, or even a disease or a condition that hasn't been a shade name in this palette, remember how proud of you I am, because I am genuinely so proud of all of the hard work you have put in, or even all of the hard work that you have put in to support someone else. I am so proud, and that should not go unrecognized, and that should not go not celebrated. Uncelebrated. You've worked hard and you deserve to celebrate and you deserve to be happy. And on that note, I hope that you are having a fantastic day, a fantastic week, a fantastic month, a fantastic year, and I hope that you are doing as fantastic as always. Bye everyone!